Call the meeting of May 11th, 2020 to order. I'd like to welcome everybody. Second time we're having to do this with the COVID and restrict our visitors. I hope everybody's been able to tune in through Zoom or their phones, and I regret that. Enjoy seeing all the smiling faces that are normally back there in the back. And with that, if we will stand, let's pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, guys. The announcements that we have, one is going to be Mr. Sneed, who is going to give us an update on some of the new meeting rules that we've been directed to use. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Sneed.
Last month, the Board of Aldermen adopted a process, a procedure for doing these meetings where the remote, and at the time remote had a different definition, where the board is meeting and the public is not. And it's set up a procedure so the public could see what's going on, to hear what's going on, participate to a certain degree. We haven't had any public hearings, and that's another animal in itself, but our regular meetings, we have a process in place where people can provide their citizen comments. Last weekend, the legislature adopted and the governor signed 2 new session laws. And it amounts to about 130, 140 pages of new law. There's just a few pages that affect hearings, and what it did is it defined a remote meeting, which what we were calling a remote meeting is not what the legislature called a remote meeting. The statute only says it's a remote meeting if some of the aldermen attend remotely and aren't here physically, which we aren't doing. And it set some guidelines for how you had to do that. And I am suggesting and recommending to this board that you take some of their guidelines for remote meetings and apply to this type meeting. I think that the legislature, if they get a chance to revisit it, are going to do that because the things they set up were obviously for the benefit of the public. So we have open meetings that are transparent and everybody can see what's going on. So earlier in the day, I sent a list to all the aldermen and pointed out the 4 things that you need to do so that the people who are not here can tell what's going on. And the first thing is early in the meeting to have a roll call so that you get everybody who's here saying, I'm here, so that anybody listening or watching who can't see the entire room knows which aldermen are here and which are not. Each time you speak, and I've already broken the first rule except that the mayor introduced me, each time you speak, say, this is Larry Harris, and then go from there. Somebody who can't see you or is listening by phone knows talking. And if you make a motion, you do the same thing. That state your name, and I move that. And typically in a meeting, or quite often in our meetings, the motion will be, I move that we adopt resolution R20-3 or whatever it is. That is assuming that the people are here who are interested and picked up a packet and know what in the world you're talking about. The statute says, say a little bit more, a brief statement of what this motion is. And I used an example that you're going to double my pay. I don't think we're going to have that motion tonight. But nonetheless, when you make a motion to adopt a resolution, give a brief statement. And if it takes it, you can read the title of that motion, just so that a resolution, so that people who can't see what's going on. And then after each motion, all votes have to be by roll call. You can't just say all in favor say aye. The mayor can call each alderman's name and you can state your vote as aye or nay. And it gets on the record that way. People who can't see what's going on know who voted how. But those are just the 4 things that I've put in a sort of basic outline. If we could do those things, I think we comply with the open meeting requirements. We reach a little farther with what a remote meeting is than the legislature did. But I think that they will come back and revisit some of these. And last meeting, Larry asked me, well, this procedure we've adopted, that means in any meeting, somebody can participate remotely. And I said yes, and the legislature took that away. They said you can only do these meetings if it's under declaration of emergency.
Too good to be true.
That was how he did for a minute.
Okay, Ron, thank you. All right, this is Don Collins, and we have a proclamation. It's a building safety month
If we may,
proclamation.
Mr. Mayor, could we start with the roll call? Let's get on for those
Yes,
listening.
sir.
Who's here.
All right. We need a roll call. I'll start with Josh, and we'll come all the way around and let everybody know who's here.
Josh Harold, Town Manager.
Ryan Stone.
Don Collins,
Larry Harris. Tim Raines.
Jennifer Willett. Maggie Tuttle.
Ron Sneed.
okay, thank you all. Now on with the proclamation. Proclamation for Building Safety Month, May of 2020. Whereas the town of Black Mountain, North Carolina is committed to recognizing that our growth and strength depends on the safety and economic values of the homes, buildings, and infrastructure that serve our citizens, both in everyday life and in times of natural disaster. And whereas our confidence in the structural integrity of these buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, design professionals, laborers, plumbers, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safety construction of buildings. And now therefore, I, Don Collins, Mayor of Black Mountain, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2020 as Building Safety Month. Accordingly, I encourage our citizens to join with other communities in participation in the Building Safety Month activities. That's all the proclamations we have. Do we have any citizen comments that's been sent in to us? Angela says none. All right, we'll hear from our beautification annual report.
Hold on one second. Okay. You got your.
Thank you for inviting the Black Mountain Beautification Committee to your meeting tonight. I am Linda Fingerly, and I am serving secretary of the committee, and I welcome you to my home. In years past, we have highlighted the work of the committee, and again this year we will do so. However, since this is our 20th anniversary year, I want to zoom you through a bit of our history. Next. In the late 1990s, a member of the Economic Development Committee of the Chamber of Commerce and a representative of the town of Black Mountain approached Mary Lynn Clouse, a former Board of Alderman member, and we requested her help in sprucing up the town. Next. Gathered together Yolanda Smith, president of the Black Mountain Women's Club, and Harriet Simon of the Black Mountain Garden of the Black Mountain Beautification Committee had its inception. Inspired by the mission of honoring the natural beauty of the British Mountain, all the while seeking to reflect the beauty on our streets and in our lives, many local residents joined the Beautification Committee. Improving the aesthetics of our community was the committee's primary mission, and new members were intrigued by our earthy motto: if you like to dig, weed, pick up trash, and swim, then you are our kind of woman. We currently have between as our 3 weeks for ongoing projects. Maintaining and planting 42 plant containers in the historic district. Maintaining and planting 21 garden sites. And maintaining all of Town Square. Next. How did the board of planners come into being? In 2016, we established a committee that we call the Consistent Look Committee. For many years, we planted a hodgepodge of ARAC as containers, working diligently with Angela Reese, God bless her. The Consistent Look Committee received a grant to design and build 42 containers. Barbara Reed, a member of the committee, researched and designed our sub-water system. Again, we've done public works. And they constructed many of these containers, and weekly throughout the year, they are out early in the morning watering the containers. We plant and maintain containers, and as the song says, winter, spring, summer, and fall, we are at work tending these works of art. With this grant, we were also able to purchase 21 benches for visitors and locals alike to enjoy. Next. Next. Some of the garden sites that we have are large and some are small, like the back of the public restroom. You may not even be aware that we take care of some areas, but imagine and just visualize what it would look like if we're not there. Our garden sites were our first major ongoing commitment to the town. This commitment still remains the priority. The town has a visionary spirit when it created Town Square. This is truly the centerpiece of Black Mountain. We are proud to maintain the gardens throughout Town Square. You know, it does take a village to maintain this jewel. Next. I thought, go back one. No, go back again. Yeah. I thought you would enjoy this early photo of when it all began. I unfortunately did not have a photo of the filling station, but there was Town Square at the very beginning. Next. So let's go now to other projects and why we are concerned. Because of COVID-19, we were unable to have the annual Black Mountain Garden Sale. The fees from vendors, the money raised from the clothesline sale, and the raffle have typically brought us additional money we needed to fund our work. But of course, this is not a typical year. With the inability to have the garden sale this year, we have lost approximately $4,500. The following slides are some of the ongoing projects we support with this money. Next. 2001 marked the first Mother's Week. I know that's Mary Lynn Clark in that photo, and I believe one of the other people is Monte Lincoln. They still accept letters with to go on. Yes, we had to cancel the community Mother's Week set for April 4th, but I assure you, we will have one as soon as we can all safely gather. There are individual members of the committee who currently walk the streets with arms tagged and foot pumpers. Next. In the past 7 years, we have given $6,800 to 33 community projects. The Beautification Committee created the Seed Money Award program in 2014. The Seed Money Award is given to an applicant or applicants who submit a gardening project that town. The committee believes that gardening related can have a broad view, and we encourage applicants to use their imagination. The photo on the left is a current photo of the 2019 grant that was given to the Dr. Judith Capps Garden in Pearlie Estate. The photo on the right is from 2017 when the Black Mountain Elementary Cycle Garden was organized. Next. Fall is the time of witches, scarecrows, giant spiders, and we have a great time decorating the town for this holiday season, and we think fall decorations add to the charm of Black Mountain and make us all feel good about living here. Next. Each year we purchase greenery from one of the vendors at the garden sale. He delivers it in late November or early December, and like Blue Elves, we fenced in the welcome sign, the fence at Town Square, and Town Hall with greenery and pods. Next. I just wanted to show you photos. I think they are both worthy of publication. Next. We have spent your money on the containers, the garden site, and Town Square solely. In fact, we have even dipped into some of our own money to do this work. Now comes the hard part for us as the committee. We do not have the garden sale profits to support our other activities. For you, that would be the Seed Money Awards, Halloween, and Christmas. In addition, we will not be able to support the goals that we set for 2020 and 2021. These goals were more containers on Black Mountain Avenue, work with Public Works, the East Median into town, and an additional season planting at the garden site. It is a difficult time for everyone, and we know that you as the Board of Aldermen are being required to have the wisdom of Solomon. We are all working for the good of the town, and fortunately for you, our labor is cheap. You cannot get higher quality labor anywhere for the price you pay. But our landscape and garden materials come at a cost, and that's where your funding applies. Those funds have a circular effect, and they all go back to local businesses. Our dilemma is what to do about the activities funded by the garden sale. Next. As we move into the new fiscal year, we want to work with you to continue the level of productivity and enhancement for the town that you have come to expect. We appreciate sincerely any guidance you can give us as to how you think we can accomplish all that you have just seen and heard. If this is not possible, and we have to make adjustments, we would appreciate your advice as we move forward with your budget decisions. We thank you for these past 20 years. We look forward to working together with you and supporting each other for years to come. And like you, we love Black Mountain.
Mayor Collins here, Ms. Leva. I think I can speak for this entire board and say thank you to the Beautification Committee for everything that you've done. Y'all's many recognitions and all across the United States, and big magazines to Oprah Winfrey to Southern Living, on and on and on. Has come at the this town has been recognized as one of the most beautiful places in the United States, small towns, and it's because of what y'all have done. Y'all do more with less than any committee, commission, anything that we have in this town and community. And we all appreciate you very dearly. And a big thanks from us and the board.
Thank you. We love what we do, and I think it's obvious.
Yes, ma'am, it is. All right, Josh, we'll go on to consent agenda unless anybody else has anything. All right, Josh.
So your consent agenda, short one this evening. Item 5A is adoption of minutes. This would be the minutes of April 13th, 2020 regular session minutes as well as closed session minutes. And that is it for the consent agenda.
So I would, Maggie Tuttle, I would like to make a motion to approve the consent item A as presented. Adoption of the minutes.
Maggie Tuttle has made a motion to approve the adoption of the minutes. I need a roll call. All in favor?
Ryan Stowe, aye.
Larry Harris, aye.
Jim Raines, aye.
Jennifer Willett, aye.
Maggie Tuttle, aye.
All right, it passes 5-0. All right, Angela Reese, do we have any citizen comments for unfinished or new business?
No.
Okay. With that, we'll go on to unfinished business. Josh?
So we should have Jesse Gardner on the line with Civil Design Concepts, who's done the majority of our engineering for this project. Let me just kind of set this up a little bit for him, and for those, I'm not sure how much Jennifer and Tim know about this project, but this is something that we've worked on for, I guess, since May. We probably passed this agreement with Asheville in May of 2019, a little bit before, to take over a total of about 600 water customers from the city of Asheville on the west side of town. Majority of phase 1 and phase 2 work has been completed. We are still buttoning up a few items on the phase 2 work, which does involve the Avatum project and the new pump station down on US 70 in front of our old public works facility. As we move forward into phase 3, we will need to do some additional work on our existing system in a few places. We were scheduled to take over around 400 or so customers in May of this year. That has been, we are a little bit behind due to the pandemic. We are now hoping we'll be done by the end of this month and be set for June 1st of 2020. With that being said, Jess, if you're on the line, if you want to take over, I would appreciate it.
Yes.
Let me share his video.
Yep, phase 2 is looking to button up here in probably 30 days. That will become on and active, and that will be our new main feed of City of Asheville water. As we move into phase 3, that we are taking over sort of the section of City of Asheville lines that fall in the Spring Hills area, around the golf course, and follow Occoneechee kind of up from Delicioso all the way back Norfolk Road. This phase requires a decent amount of infrastructure improvement to bring it up to compliance and state regs. And that's I think is what Josh has shared some budget information for. And I kind of be happy to answer any questions or go into more specifics of that. There's some interconnections we need to make. There's some additional PRV valves we need to make because of the pressure zone difference. We need to install a new master meter and backflow preventer at this second location. And basically upgrade a pump station to ultimately feed these additional customers coming over in phase 3. When it's all said and done, this will have 2 connection points from Asheville. The main point being the pump station that's about to come online here in 30 or 40 days.
So for the board, these, I guess, updates to the system. Jesse, when would these need to be? Is this something we can spread out through a couple of budget cycles, or is this something that needs to be done in the upcoming fiscal year?
I think the pump station upgrade could probably be spread out an extra year or so. That's less about compliance, but more about just the amount of water usage we're getting out of that existing tank and pump system. Several of the other, I guess majority of the other requirements need to be done this fiscal year and in place so that we can pick these customers up this time next year.
So for the board, the cost of all these changes to the system are about $700,000 or so is what this project is going to cost. The majority of that cost, well, the new motors or the new pumps in the pump station make up the majority of that cost at about $250,000. The other pieces of that project that he mentioned, PRV valves, some new lines, different things of that nature, make up the remaining of that amount, $600,000 to $700,000. How big, Jesse, is the increase in pressure for the requirement for the new pumps?
You talking about the ones that are about to come on, or the existing pumps?
No, the ones we need to do for this phase 3.
For phase 3, that's the Chapel Road pump station. It feeds Black Mountain Estate tank. I believe that tank's 400,000 gallons. And currently, those pumps are running ranging 12 to 16 hours a day. So they're pretty tight. Still compliant with code. I think we're adding another 75 to 100 residences on that tank with this phase 3 connection and swap over. So, Jamie does a good job of always having backup pumps and stuff to minimize shutdowns, but we're starting to tax that pump station to the limit. That's why I sort of, talking to Jamie, felt like a pump station should be budgeted for in the near future. What's limiting is we currently only have single phase power, so we felt we needed to bring 3-phase and upgrade the pumps so that a normal pump cycle would be 8 to 12 hours to keep that thing full.
Does the board have any questions, Jess?
I was aware, this is Larry Harris, Jesse. I was aware from Josh that of the magnitude of the expenses that we're going to have to incur, but I don't recall hearing numbers of this magnitude anywhere in the discussion at any time, place, anywhere, because I think it would have had some impact on our discussions with the city of Asheville. Not that we would have not taken on the lines, but just to be aware. How did I'm the rest of the board, anybody wants to speak, but until Josh had mentioned this to me, it's probably been 6 weeks ago or two months, I'd never heard numbers outside of this, and I was aware that there could be a good bit of maintenance due because the lines were older and it's just what they, like a lot of our lines are, frankly. But I'm a little shocked at the number, and at it comes to a surprise. I don't, it's not a surprise tonight, but it was a surprise when I first heard of it, and I guess the next step. I'm not doubting your integrity or anything. I'm not trying to call anything into question about what you've done, but were you not ever asked to examine the cost of bringing on these new, the lines? Is this, when was it in all these discussions, which went on for a good while? When was it that you were asked to take a look at the engineering aspect of it?
I shared these similar numbers for Matt Settlemyre, 3 years ago, probably.
Do you remember that?
If not longer. But yeah, we've been looking at this project. Wow.
I never remember that. This is Larry again, but I never remember that being reported at a board meeting. And I never remember hearing the number. Not that I didn't hear them, but I sure don't remember it.
I could pull back in my file, but I anticipated these numbers. They probably went up since I first did this 6-7 years ago by a factor of 15% just for construction industry upgrade. But didn't really pencil this stuff out early on before we even came to the agreement with City of Asheville with staff.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I think maybe that's the explanation, is that if it was a good while back when the discussion first started, and then when we really entered into negotiations to do it, I'm not sure those numbers were revisited. But I do have a question, and I think we have to take a hard look at it. But how do we even deal with this? Our water fund, we probably have $1 million balance or $1.2 million balance in the fund balance in the water fund, but we can't afford to spend it all in it.
Take that amount out.
No, we can't afford to do that. And so obviously we have to, if it has to be done, it has to be done. But I'm curious if we can, if we had the information, the town had the information, and Matt had it, and I'll leave it to the rest of the board. I just don't ever remember having a discussion of the complete cost of all this. So I think we have to look at how we recover money for capital projects through our fees and see how we address it. I don't think it's the end of the world if we're going to have to figure out some way to finance it, but it's not the end of the world to have to spend the money for a perpetual flow of revenue from 600 water customers. But I would like to think, and Jesse, I think you know what I'm getting at when I say this. I would like to think that perhaps over a 10-year period of time, 600 water customers could add approximately $1,000 each to fund balance. I mean, that's over a 10-year period. But if that's the case, then we have those improvements paid for in 10 years, which is, and these are just my estimations. It's not based on any science. 10 years is always a good way to think about recouping an investment. But if we can recoup that investment from the 600 water customers in 10 years with a contribution to capital, if you will, of that much, I think it's reasonable. But we're just going to have to take a look at that. It's not anything, and please don't misunderstand me, Jesse. I am pleased to know that at least it had been reported to the town manager, and maybe other board members remember a discussion about it. But we are where we are, and I don't think there's any, Attorney Sneed can help us. I don't think we have any bargaining place to go back to the city of Asheville. What I was curious about is if they could help us recoup some of that tremendous amount of capital by our rates that we're paying for water, and help recoup that. But I don't know that they'd be interested in doing that. We talked about it for years.
And everybody's in the same hard spot. that wasn't a matter that was discussed with the city of Asheville, and it may be a discussion they'd listen to, knowing we're in the same jam they are in now. But across the board, all the municipalities are going to be looking for where to get money and not where to give money. So it's a hard time to try to strike the deal.
Yeah.
But it's worth a discussion.
Well, maybe the first thing to do is to look at our rates and see how we recover, because we should be, if our rates are reasonably constructed, we should be recovering some capital in each gallon of water that we're charging a client for, a customer for. And of course that's not a lot, but if we take it per customer per year and go over, and maybe there's some numbers out there, that some other comparisons to look at, Josh, as far as a recoup. I'd be happy with 10 years. We could recoup it in 10 years.
Another number to look at is you now have a system development fee.
Right.
That brings in significantly more money for our water than the old out of the hat impact fee we had.
Right.
And if development picks back up, then that's going to be a source of money that we didn't even have to talk about when we entered into the water agreement.
Didn't we, this is Larry Harris again, did we not, isn't it a couple of $100,000 that went over to the water fund designated as the capital improvement, the impact fees?
It is. Currently, we've got a couple water projects we need to do that would probably take most of that money. I'll say that money, as long as these changes in this phase 3 fall under that criteria that's allowed to be spent for that money, which is upsizing lines, things of that nature. Can't just be 4-inch replacement for 4-inch replacement. It's got to be capacity upgrades. So as long as it falls under that, then that could be spent for that. That's correct.
Well, the pumps would be capacity upgrades, wouldn't they?
Yeah, should be. So yeah, we do have that.
Yeah.
To go.
But I would think, again, this is Larry Harris, I'm sorry. I would think we still have to, regardless of how we can recoup those dollars through fees and through rates, we're going to have to look at financing that. Now, fortunately, money's very inexpensive, so that's helpful. But I'm wondering, and everybody's looking for money now, so I doubt this, but weren't there funds available for water and sewer projects? I mean, it was something, I know somebody came up from Raleigh to speak, and it Land to Sky probably 12 to 14 months ago. And, the funds may not be there now, but they were really offering some help. And I think they were loans, I think.
Yeah.
But might be a good source of funds. Maybe you can do just as well through regular sources at this point in time.
Yeah. We've talked to North Carolina Rural Water Association, and they've actually done kind of a rate study for us recently. So my plan is to kind of present that to you when we go through budget.
Right.
I think that'll have some numbers in it that may show, what this recoup rate could be for this project.
So, but what we again, this is Larry Harris. Jesse, what you're saying is that almost $500,000 of these cost of the capital that's needed to require to bring these 600 customers on needs to be incurred in the next 12 months.
Yes, to follow through with our agreement, take these customer overs by May 2021.
Well, that would be another option, Ron. This is Larry Harris again. That would be another option is because of where we are and in physical matters, and we're not quite sure yet because we need to look at our rates and all that sort of thing. I wonder if we might be able to spread it out.
Talk to the city of Asheville about extending our steps, possibly.
That might be helpful if we could spread these expenses out, and make it more manageable per year. I mean, because we said around 700, the pump station's 250, so that's approximately $500,000 if we needed to accomplish it all in 1 year. When do you need to start? If that were the case, Jesse, when would you need to start?
We need to start, like, design-wise, we've not designed or permitted any of this, so, ideally, I'd like to have 6 to 7 months to bid and get constructed, so we're at that point where we should be getting this thing started in design and permit.
Yeah.
Permitting.
Yeah, that's what I would have thought. So, great. Thank you, Jesse.
No worries.
Mr. Don Collins, do we have any more questions from anyone? Hearing none, we'll go on to new business. Josh, number A.
So 8A, Jessica's on the line, and she's gonna go through just a short PowerPoint for you, not to bore you to death with details, but we, as you all may know or may not know, I think I did email the board a couple months back. We did finally get our stormwater review from the state. Wasn't the best, and I don't think it was the worst. I'll say we, over the years, there's been a gentleman in charge with the state who took, I guess, for lack of better words, a lax approach to reviews, and you pretty much sent in what you've done, and that was kind of a check mark, and that's all you heard. Since that time, I think the state, the federal government, EPA, has come down a little harder on the state and has advised them they need to be doing reviews and making sure that MS4 holders are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Hence the reason for this inspection and review from them this time around. I think they've done 20 municipalities over the past year or so, and 3 of those have passed. The other 17 have not passed. One of those was NCDOT, one was Greenville, North Carolina, and one was Clemens, North Carolina. What you have before you tonight is a resolution which will affirm the support regarding implementation of a compliant NPDES MS4 stormwater program here in Black Mountain. I think we've been in this, we've been in MS4 I think since about 2009 or 10, so about 10 years now, and there's quite a few things that go along with approving the compliant program. We've done a few of those things already. The resolution is one of the last things to do. We have sent in a lengthy stormwater management plan that we had to do that has to be approved by the state. That will probably take a few months of back and forth to get approval from the state. We did already send that in. And Jessica, if you're on the line, can you jump on and kind of give just a brief synopsis?
Can you hear me now?
Right
Yes.
here now.
Yay, okay. All right, I'm going to try to share this out. Let's see,
You have this.
Josh was saying about the notice of violation. We're all pretty much in the same boat across the state. We have many actions that we have to adhere to work through that notice of violation. And this resolution was provided to us by the state, and it's one that everybody has to pass. Basically acknowledging the notice and providing support to have a compliant program moving forward. Josh, is there anything else about the resolution specifically?
The board may have questions in a minute, but if you want to just kind of go through your PowerPoint, and just kind of explain what this is and why the need for it.
Okay. Angela, it's not letting me share my screen
Okay, hold on.
like it was earlier.
All right, try it now.
Okay. There we go. Okay.
Okay, so she's gonna show the same thing you have in front of you on paper.
And I'll say this to the board, we're not asking for you to approve anything except the resolution this evening. This PowerPoint is food for thought, and we hope to get some direction from you at the end.
Okay. So this is regulation, permitting, and administrative functions related to the stormwater collection system and all the regulatory response that is often required. Regulatory compliance with MS4 is significant, and we've been working really hard to get our staff wrapped around that. The audit occurred in the wintertime. It can be a little bit more difficult to explain to the public sometimes because people think utilities, they think I turn on a light and or I turn on a faucet with fixing water. But this is dedicated to the maintenance and the control and treatment of stormwater, which is everywhere. When you're considering a stormwater utility, you should know it's not the only option, but of all of our options, which would consist of grants, special assessment, special tax districts, and things like that, the cost list is shorter on the utility side than everything else. It creates revenue without increasing the tax rate. It also reduces the burden on the general fund. There are many ways that can happen. Anybody who is in whole or in part working on any allowable activity can be accounted for, or their salary or services can be provided for through the utility. It's also more equitable than just a simple tax increase because we're able to account for intensity of use in a rate structure as opposed to everybody paying the exact same amount. It's stable and predictable, which is obviously very important when we're talking about infrastructure. And it's dedicated and protected, which contributes to that stability factor. And we can also be flexible to meet the town's needs. So you can set your rates for a stormwater utility based on shifts in demand and levels of service that you're providing to the community. In the comp section, it's a different conversation. Obviously, nobody likes to talk about new fees and money. It's always hard. And it also increases expectations from the community, which is fair. If someone is paying a fee, they are going to want to see how that money is spent. But we also need to be very clear about what the stormwater fee is capable of regulating and what it is not. Just because somebody pays a stormwater fee or we have a utility doesn't mean that we can stop flooding from happening, for example. Stormwater control and flood mitigation, not exactly the same animal. Why do we need a stormwater utility? We need it for a lot of reasons. Primarily, the NPDES permit is extremely expensive to implement correctly, and it's an unfunded federal mandate. The education and outreach related to stormwater every year, and we have to measure all of these things. So the utility is able to do that. Have salary in whole and part that is related to the NPDES permit or the MS or system itself. Should be paid for. It could also be used for master funds for grants. And the very extensive maintenance
So I think from at least staff's perspective, we would like to really try and dig in a little deeper to what Clemens does. I think they've done a really good job, and that they obviously were successful in their audit. I think they've been pretty inventive on how they've done it to stay as cheap as they possibly can. I think that's something that staff would be in favor of, trying to not recreate the wheel, but use someone else that's been successful in this project, or in this program. I'll say when I was here as planning director, it was always understood that you did the best you could with the program, and that's what we did, and that's how we got by. That's changed, obviously. As I mentioned, EPA has kind of given North Carolina a warning and said this has got to be done correctly, otherwise someone's going to pay. So that's the reason that we're in this situation now, is due to the changes from EPA and being more stringent on states, specifically North Carolina in this case. And please ask questions of Jessica. I would say that at this point we're kind of at the beginning, with this resolution and our stormwater management plan and things we have to do for this audit to be in compliance. That's just the beginning. As we move through this, regardless of what direction we take, there'll be multiple conversations we'll have to have in public meetings to talk about, the things we need to address. But I think at least from staff's perspective, we'd like for you, of course, to ask questions, and then hopefully some direction on which way we can go moving forward. Yeah.
If my understanding is right on this, Jessica, it's Don Collins, it's not the acreage, it's the non-pervious surfaces that you're having to pay the fee on. Is that correct?
Not with the suggested rate. It would just be a tiered rate it would probably be based on acreage. We're not going to go, if you do the impervious surface, it's a much more in-depth equivalent residential unit, which I think Hendersonville just went to. It's much more complicated to do that process. And that does bring into account impervious surfaces.
So you're saying that you're leaning more toward acreage?
A flat tiered rate, yes.
It's not acreage, it's based on use. So it would not be based on the size, it would be based on the use. So an industrial parcel would be charged more than a residential parcel.
Give me an example on 8 acres of farmland, this pasture.
It would be a flat rate of, it would just be classified as undeveloped if it wasn't anything but grass, and that would be, I think that's $1 a month in that example. It would not be based on the size of the parcel, but the use of the parcel.
For this meeting, the town was issued a notice of deficiency or violation on February the 28th, and part of our process that we are required to follow by the statutes. And these North Carolina general statutes, but they're pushed by federal Clean Water Act. But they're North Carolina general statutes created by the Clean Water Act, or is it federal? Conforming. And so, I'm sorry, this is Larry Harris. And so, but tonight, at this meeting, as part of the process, we are required, or we could be subject to penalties. We are required to adopt this resolution.
Correct.
Or we'd be in further violation. So, this is Larry Harris. I would make a motion that we adopt this resolution as required by law because of our violation. But we have to work through all the details of our plan. That's not what we're really doing tonight. We just want to make sure we understand the direction we're heading in.
That's correct.
So, Mr. Mayor, I'd make that motion.
All right, Larry has made the motion. I'll ask for all in favor Give me your name and aye, yea or nay.
Ryan Stone, aye.
Larry Harris, aye.
Tim Raines, aye.
Jennifer Willett, aye.
Maggie Tuttle, aye.
Motion is approved 5-0.
If I could, Mr. Mayor, does the board feel like it's okay that we move forward with a rate and willingness to pay survey, or is that something you want to do at a later date? This will be a survey of the citizenship.
This is Larry Harris. Personally, I'd prefer to be able to have a little bit better discussion. It was a little hard to follow Jessica tonight on the telephone. Not her fault, but these meeting conditions are a little unusual, and this is a pretty weighty topic. And so would be my opinion, I'd rather defer it to another meeting. We can do a special call meeting one morning to try to tackle it a little bit more.
Thank you.
Next item is the approval of the 2020-21 rates for the Black Mountain Golf Course.
So you have been, I think this was in your packets, on the staff's recommendation for the new golf course rates to take effect. Brent should be on the line if you've got questions or if he'd like to speak. I'll run through this. I'll try to be as quick as possible. One thing you're missing that's not on your paper is the addition of a player's pass that was omitted from this. Should have been on there and it was not added to this. But that is a $200 special player's pass, $25 weekdays and $35 on weekends. So that will need to be added back to this. I apologize for that getting omitted. So the 2020 proposed rates, family current rates are $1,300. And we suggest we go to $1,800, which is about 27% increase. Individual rates are at $950. We suggest going to $1,200, which is about 20%. Cart fees, riding 18 is currently 17. We suggest 20 or recommend 20. Riding 9 is currently $9. We recommend $10. Green fees for 2020, weekday ride 18, currently 35, we recommend 40. Ride 9, currently 20, that stays the same at 20. Walk 18 and walk 9 both stay the same at $20 for 18 and $12 for 9. On the weekend rates, riding 18, we recommend 50 instead of 45. Weekend ride 9 is currently 24, we recommend 25. Walk 18 is 24, we recommend 25, and walk 9 is 14, we recommend 15. Senior riding for 18, only Monday through Friday, excuse me, is currently 30, we recommend 35. Twilight after 2 p.m. every day. Ride 18 is currently 28, we recommend 30. Ride 9 is currently 18, we recommend it to stay the same. Walk 18 and walk 9 we recommend to stay the same at $20 and $10. If you approve this rate structure, currently we have about 6 family memberships, 42 individual memberships. That comes to $47,700 is currently what we're getting from those memberships. With the new rates, we would be getting $55,800, so a little over $8,000 in increase for those fees.
Okay, Maggie Tuttle. I saw these rates and I certainly noticed some of the percentage increases were more so than others, and I thought with the current situation with the COVID-19 situation going on that I thought we ought to maybe meet in the middle on these fees. I have some suggestions, and I know, and I've talked, and from my perspective, coming as a golfer who plays and being on this board, I have double interest in this situation, and I think it would be fair to go with these rates. And one of the reasons I looked at our competitors and their fees, And I still think we can up them a little bit and still be very competitive. And one of the things I certainly have which is of key interest, I think, is to reduce the burden on our general fund. So I think the golfers, certainly they need to pay to play. And one thing I've noticed with this last month, now that the golf course has been back open, with the situation going on, how many people are out there. It is incredible. And of course the weather's cooperating. So I have a lot of positive feeling about our golf course, and I think it would be advisable right now to not increase the fees quite as much as proposed here. So I have some proposals on fees. I would like to propose that the family membership be $1,600 and the individual $1,100. And the cart fees go up $2, which is $19, and ride 9 would be $10. And the weekday rates, $38. Leave the ride 9 the same, and leave the walk and 9 the same. Weekend, to ride be $48, and ride 9 would be $25, which is the same as what you have proposed here. Leave the walk and 9 the same. And the rest of the rates, I think, would be okay.
Do we have any discussion from the board?
Maggie, this is Larry Harris. Maggie, I think that's, I certainly agree with you. And if you care to make that, I would be happy to make this Larry Harris a motion to adopt the rates that Maggie just gave us as an alternative to those that were in the agenda packet.
Larry, if I may just ask one question before we vote on that. Josh, you mentioned the pass to begin with. Maggie, was that fee able to stay the same when your calculations, or how did you feel about that?
I think so. I think that has attracted quite a few people, especially I know several of the people come from Asheville. They like that, and they play quite a bit. Okay. So they will pay their way with using this pass. Okay. I think it's a good thing.
Josh, this is Tim Ranks. What were the numbers on that player pass?
It's the same as it currently is. $200 special players pass, and that's $25 for weekdays and $35 on weekends.
Thank you.
For riding.
Well, it would be it's $10 off each.
Right.
Yeah, each round is what it is. That $200 pass, it's $10 off each round.
So I guess it would be a little. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it'd go to 28 and 38.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. But it seems to be a good
So,
deal for most people. They
basically,
play quite a bit.
this non-conference, Maggie, what you're proposing then is basically on family, $150 less than Muni, $150 less on the family, and then $150 less on the individual, $1 less on the cart fees for if you ride 18, and and I don't have the weekday weekend rates are with the Muni.
Hold on. I don't think that's on here. They just address the membership, I think, on here. But I know our rates are competitive. We're still the best
Absolutely.
rates, and I think that's, but we're not, you know, we're not cheap compared to everybody else. Golf is not cheap anymore.
No, it's not. But my thing is, we've got a better golf course than what Muni does, and to be cheaper than Muni, and just knowing that the cost of the regular non-golf playing taxpayers, we're always taking a hit, and I understand that. We do the same thing on keeping tennis courts up and all that sort of thing. It's something that is expected in a town, and we have cut our losses back from the days when Billy Casper was losing tons of money. We've cut our losses, but I just want to go on record that I feel like we shouldn't be any less than Muni, and enough said about that. I think that asking the non-golfing taxpayers to pay more than what Asheville golfers is playing is, when we're providing a better product, just doesn't make sense. Well, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Ryan Stone, aye.
Larry Harris, aye.
Tim Raines, aye.
Jennifer Willett, aye.
Maggie Tuttle, aye.
All right, passes with 5-0 vote.
Don, if I could, this is Larry Harris. I think your point's well taken. We're just this is an unusual time. You know, when I saw the rates, my first comment to Josh was, I just think where we are in the middle of a very unusual time, that I was uncomfortable with raising them at all, frankly. But you know, I think Maggie did a nice job working through it, and I think we have some reasonable increases, and we just have to stay after it. I think we do need to, like everything else in the world, everything goes up a little bit each year, and so I think we need to be careful about taking holidays from doing an increase, because you got increases with your employees every year. And so forth. So you know, we need to be attentive to anything that we have fees to. You just have to stay after them.
Mr. Mayor, this is Tim Raines again. Years ago, we had two different rates for town residents and non-residents as far as memberships, individual and family, because the people in the town are paying taxes, and the people out of the town are not paying taxes. So that's what created that difference in the membership rates. A while back, we went to making the same rate for in-town residents and out-of-town residents. And so really, the people who live in the town are paying more because of their tax rate than the people that are out of town. So I suggest that maybe we might want to revisit that at some point.
We can certainly do that. But right now we have a motion that's been approved 5-0, and I will make a comment to Larry's comment. I agree with you 100%. Last year, not having a tax increase because we had so much rain. Well, every other golf course in this Western North Carolina had the rain, and had the same problem that we did, and they went up. And we got ourselves talked into not approaching that, and we should have, because that's what catching up makes it look like we're doubling rates versus what somebody else did, because they increased last year and we didn't. So the motion that Maggie's golf rates are approved. Josh C. FFCRA.
Families First Coronavirus Response or Relief? Response Act. This is something that has been, if you follow the news or know anything about, this is something that's been passed by the federal government as far as extended family and medical leave and some sick leave. I do have Susan Russo-Klein on the line with Robertson Stevens to go through this policy. It's relatively short. Susan, do you mind to give us just a brief synopsis of this, please?
Absolutely. Well, good evening. It's nice to talk with you all. So the
One of those is up to 2 weeks of paid sick leave for employees who are quarantined. Now that quarantine has now lifted to the most extreme degree, so they can't really use that right now, but they could through December 31st under this law and under this policy, if we have another closure. If they are sick themselves, if they are seeking diagnosis, if they believe they have coronavirus, then they can get up to their full pay for up to 2 weeks with medical documentation. Additionally, they can get up to 2 weeks of paid leave, and it's only one period of paid leave during this period from April 1st to December 31st. So they don't get more than one leave, even if they have more than one incident. But they can also take paid leave at 2/3 of their regular rate if they are caring for someone else who has coronavirus, or if they're home taking care of a child whose school or child care is closed due to coronavirus. So that's the 2-week paid sick leave, and the town does get credit in the form of payroll taxes for any leave it has to provide. Employees can also elect to use their other leave instead of, in lieu of this, or first instead of using this. So it does not supplant that existing leave they have. The other form of leave is up to 12 weeks of expanded FMLA leave. If you're familiar with FMLA, it's normally used for people who have serious medical conditions. And in this case, the 12 weeks of paid leave is paid at 2/3 rate, and that's to care for your child who is home from school or child care due to coronavirus. So it provides a federally required paid leave program. It is a short-term program, but this really formalizes how that program will work for the town's employees and how they can request that leave if they need it.
Susan, this is Larry Harris, and just to confirm my understanding, this is required. We don't have a choice about it, but this is effective through December 31, 2020.
That's correct, Mr. Harris. So it is a short-term program, and it will not continue after December 31st unless Congress expands it.
Right. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions from Josh? Ms. Susan? All right, I need a motion to approve the Family First Coronavirus Response Act paid leave and extended family and medical leave policy as presented.
Mr. Mayor, this is Larry Harris. I'd make that motion.
We have a motion. All in favor?
Ryan Stone, aye.
Larry Harris, aye.
Tim Raines, aye.
Jennifer Willett, aye. Maggie Tuttle, aye.
Passes 5-0. Public hearing, we have none. Communication from staff, Mr. Sneed.
Excuse me, I'll add the next line to what I began the meeting with. When you reach the point where you actually have public hearings, so the public has to be involved, there's a step added. So as you schedule a meeting for a public hearing, you're going to want to schedule a follow-up or continuance of that meeting to the next evening. Because after each public hearing, you have to allow 24 hours for public comment to come in whatever form and have that comment before you make your decision. So when you have formal public hearings, plan on a 2-day meeting.
You know, Ron, along those lines, until, for what we know now, we're not going to be able to have probably not going to be able to have a public meeting the way we did for some time.
It appears that way.
Because you can't limit the numbers. The only thing we're allowed to limit the numbers in at this point in time would be, if let's say it increases over 10. But if it does that, then we could potentially have a meeting if you could distance them within the room, or is that? I wonder if that still restricts our public meeting laws at that point.
You're still going to have that availability to the public. And I've thought of meetings where you're going to have something. It would have been nice to have that one person here to make the presentation, and the interaction is better than, because we're not accustomed to related remotely. But even if you can bring in the presenter of something that they want from the town, the public still has to be able to see and hear and comment if it's a public hearing. So I think you're right. We're probably months away from the time where we have the old-fashioned public hearing.
Okay. Josh, do you have any?
Sure. A couple things. Yeah, we got our budget meeting coming up here in a couple of weeks, and we're gonna have some tough decisions to make this year, as you all know, and I think everybody in the country is gonna have to do the same. A couple of things, before as I'm tidying up this budget, a couple of things staff has concerns about, and these are shots in the dark. We just don't know what's going to happen with the allowance of having people indoors and how many people. Summer camp's an issue. I think right now that is allowed, but that's been decreased, I think, to 50%. So typically we have 13 kids. We could have probably 6. My concern and staff's concern would be liability on keeping things clean and making sure folks aren't getting sick. I think that's a concern of ours, a legitimate concern. Our swimming pool is another concern. Right now, listening to some county guidance, they've kind of got Parks and Rec broken up into a 2A, 2B, 2C, and a Phase 3. And they're not, and this is just projections for them, and no one knows, they're not thinking pools will open back up until at least July. So the question for us is, do we want to have the pool open for 2 months? That's something that we have concerns about. Do we want to do that, or do we not want to do it? How do we do it? How do we limit the number of people? How many people can come in? So it's things like that are on our minds. Park Rhythms, of course, is another event we have. 4th of July. I'll say 4th of July is being canceled by lots of folks right now. People all across the state are canceling. Asheville's canceled their 4th of July celebration. Weaverville has postponed theirs until, I think, Labor Day. So, things like that are unknowns, and my goal is to present you with a balanced budget in a couple of weeks. So there's not going to be any fund balance appropriations. So whatever we do differently, of course, will mean we'll need to cut from somewhere else. If y'all end up changing, which is fine. But like I said, staff does have reservations about those 3 items, or 4 items at least, about even putting those in the budget without knowing what's down the road. So just to let you know that.
And Josh, I think of what you said, the 4th of July is the main pressing one right now that we kind of need to agree on, simply because it takes you, next month you'd have to be ordering the fireworks, having it all set up, and we don't know whether we're going to be allowed to open up the streets or not. So,
and I'll say this with 4th of July, typically we pay that in advance because we get a cheaper deal. All right, we've already paid this year. They told us we can hold on to that and do it next year. Not a big deal. Where was I going with that? Oh, the other issue, we get donations for that, right? That's what we try to recoup that money. Well, this year has been a bad year for donations, and we've got about $1,500, I think, in donations is all we were able to get before this virus hit. So, and there's that. Yeah, like you said, Mayor, I don't know. No one knows when streets will be open, when we'll be able to have more than 10 people. It's tough times for us all.
Yeah.
But you're not asked, Don, were you, this is Larry Harris, Mayor, were you suggesting we needed to make that decision tonight? I'd like to be able to contemplate it just a bit. When do you need that decision?
Well, sooner than later. I mean, our next meetings, I guess we could do some type of vote at May 28th meeting on it.
If that's sufficient time, let's do that.
I'll reach out to them and see exactly how much time they need. If they end up needing more time, then we'll address it.
Would that be good to call a special call meeting for one morning if that's what we need to do?
Yeah. Yeah, well, if we need it before May 28th, we'll have to have a special call meeting. And one last thing, census, very important in this time. Census offices will be reopening June 1st on a limited basis. I know folks that are supposedly going door to door probably have concerns about going door to door, and people probably have concerns about answering the door with different folks coming to their doors. The deadline's been extended to October 31st, so that's a good thing. As I mentioned, field operations will begin June 13th, so about a month away they'll start knocking on your door. Census response rate as of May 9th, national rate 58.1%, North Carolina 54%, Buncombe County 54%, and we're higher at 55.4%, so doing good in Black Mountain. If you know anyone who does not have a smartphone or home computer, they can come by the Chamber of Commerce here in Black Mountain between 9 and 12, Monday through Friday, and they can access the internet to fill out their census forms. www.2020census.gov. And that is it for me.
And just to tag along with what Josh has said about the census, it's more important this year probably than any time we've had a census, because that's where we get our federal funds and money from, is to have an accurate count of the folks that are living in this town. So my encouragement to everybody who hears this message, make sure you fill out your census forms and you get counted. Do you have any comments from the alderman?
Well, I would say just hats off to Josh and the staff. I know everybody's work has been challenging. No, yours is. We appreciate your just working through things.
Anyone else? Need a motion to adjourn.
Maggie Tuttle, so moved.
All in favor?
Rod Stone, aye.
Larry Harris, aye.
Tim Raines, aye.
Jennifer Willett, aye. Maggie Tuttle, aye.
Motion to adjourn is approved. Thank you.